Arizona Territory, 1877. It was 12 years since the Civil War had ended, and it'd be another 35 years before Arizona would become a state in 1912. Out here, Army soldiers on their way to build Fort Huachuca came across an itinerant prospector. Well, it was about that time Geronimo and some of the other Apaches were on an outbreak, and they asked the old prospector what he was doing. He said he was looking for his lucky strike. And they told him all you'll find out here will be your tombstone. Well, he got his lucky strike, and he named the place Tombstone.
Tombstone was on its way to being the premier town of the West. I mean, it had the find, it had the money, it had the capital coming in from San Francisco and New York, and the latest mining equipment. But a sad thing happened. A earthquake in Bavispe, Mexico hit, and there was a lot of water, and there still is, under the ground around Tombstone, and it flooded the mines. And it just killed production, and several mining companies went out of business. Other people had tried to come back, and they put in one of the largest pumps ever to pump 50,000 gallons an hour, that kind of thing, out of the ground. The pump was like huge, 2-3 stories high. They still could not make mining viable there again. Eventually, other mining districts, Bisbee, Pierce, up the river, Winkleman, mining went elsewhere.
It had a very brief period of boom years, maybe about 5 or 6 years was all. But during that time, it attracted all this different element from wild women to preachers and teachers. And, you know, a great deal of the violence in these old mining towns and cattle towns had to do with alcohol. They were almost always drunk and been out on a binge when this occurred.
The interesting thing about Tombstone and Allen Street, which, by the way, is one of the most deadliest streets in America, is if you take the alcohol out of the equation, you wouldn't have any shootings, okay? And when you think that almost every guy there was armed and drunk, it's amazing there weren't more killings.
And there were also opium dens were prevalent, usually in the Chinese section of town. These towns, they would have gun ordinances. You don't think about this today because you see the Hollywood movies and the television where everybody's packing a gun in town and in the bars. Well, they were smart enough to know that this was not a good idea back then. And usually you'd have to check your guns on your way into town. You check them at the livery stable where you leave your horse, or you check them at the local saloon, or you check them at the marshal's office, but you checked your guns. And you picked them up on your way out of town again. And that was good civic thinking because in a bar, you duke it out if you got into an altercation with somebody, but if you had a pistol with you, you'd most likely, one or the other would go for his pistol.
Tombstone was not some small little burg, okay? There was 8,000, maybe 9, it's unclear. There was at least 8,000 people there, and it was rivaling Tucson as the largest city in the territory. A travel writer went through there in 1882, and he said, I hate Tombstone because nobody haggles there. It's just the best of everything. It's too new. They just wanted the latest of everything. The mines brought everything in. Think about this. They had a municipal swimming pool within a year there. A swimming pool. The idea of light up and them jumping in the water is just outrageous. They had bowling alleys, okay? As I mentioned, they have ice cream parlors. They had coffee shops. They had French cuisine. This idea of cowboy steaks, that's a way later idea. But think about it. The cowboys go to town. They don't want to eat with beans and grub. They want to come in and have French tongue. They want to have the latest cuisine, and they did.